Hello guys and welcome to my new video. So in today's video we'll be talking about finding the roots of a quadratic equation by using the completing the square method. Okay, so we have another method to find the root of the equation, which is by using the formula. Okay, the formula of a quadratic equation, but in this video we'll just cover about how to find the roots using completing the square method. Okay, now before we jump into that, let's just briefly and generally understand the general form of a quadratic equation. So in a quadratic equation, this is the general form of it, where you'll have the a coefficient, b, and c coefficient. So the a coefficient will be in front of the x squared, and the b will be in front of the x, and then you'll have c equal to 0. And remember, this is an equation. That's why it's equal to 0. Okay? Alright, so let's jump into it. So how do we find the root using completing the square method? Now if you look here, I've written here how the formula actually works, and that is by rewriting down the equation, okay, x squared, and remember that when completing the square, okay, we have to make sure the a is equal to 1. Okay, the a cannot be any other number besides 1. It cannot be -1. It must only be 1. Okay, so let me just write that down. A must be 1. Okay, it cannot be any other number, any other negative, a fraction. It cannot be. It must be a 1. So whenever doing solving completing the square, we must start with the x squared in front without anything else in front. Okay, without anything. Okay, so in this formula we've seen x squared plus bx plus bracket b over 2 squared minus b over 2 squared plus c. Now it looks a bit confusing from here on how we can apply this, but by jumping into a question, you'll see how we can easily do this. Okay, so in our first question, we have x squared plus 4x minus 7 equals 0. Now the first thing to always check is if there's any coefficient in front of the x. And over here, it's only a 1. Okay, there's no negative, no other number, so we are safe to proceed. Okay, so now let's commence. Okay, let's start. So x squared plus 4x minus 7 is equal to 0. Okay, so since there's no coefficient from the x squared, we can apply this formula instantly. Okay, and that's very easy. You don't have to memorize this formula at all. You just have to go with the flow. Okay, so you just write down x squared first, and then continue to write the bx. Okay, and now our second step would be to plus and write a bracket, and in this bracket it has to be b over 2. Okay, so in our equation our b will be the 4, right? Because if you write this down, it's going to be ax squared plus bx plus c, and our a is 1, our b is 4, and our c is -7. So our b in this case will be 4. So write down the b over 2 and squared. Okay, easy as that. And then we're going to go ahead and minus this by the same exact thing we've written here, because that's what the formula says. It's minus b over 2 squared. So we're going to minus 4 over 2 squared, and just write down the c, which is -7 equal to 0. Now, okay, we're done and we're almost done with this already. Okay, so once you're done with that, so what's the next step? In the next step, we have to write down a bracket. Okay, start a bracket and write x. Okay, write an x, and basically, if you didn't know, the product of this will be x plus something squared plus something equals to 0. That's what you will get in the solving the roots method. And this form is known as a vertex form, if you didn't know. Okay, so you should be getting something like this. So that's why in the first thing we have to just put a bracket, opening bracket, write an x, and okay, so the what would be the number over here? So I told you write a squared. Okay, so what would be the number here? Well, the number here, so it's a short form, it's a shortcut method where the number here would technically be the b divided by 2. So what is 4 divided by 2? Gives you 2, positive 2 by the way, plus 4 divided by 2 is plus 2. Okay, so we're almost done already. Okay, and now we can forget about this part totally. Okay, now we just focus on this part. Okay, so let's just calculate what is negative bracket 4 over 2 close bracket squared minus 7. So you can calculate that in the calculator. Okay, negative 4 2 squared minus 7, and you should be getting negative 11 equals 0. Now all you have to do is solve for x. So what we do is just bring the 11 to the other side. Okay, and now we are going to move this square here to the other side, which gives us a square root of 11. And bear in mind that you have to write a plus minus in front of here, because it could be a positive or negative cert 11. Okay, so since there's two possible outcomes, which is a positive cert 11 or a negative cert 11, we have to do two cases. One, x plus 2 is equal to cert 11, or x plus 2 is equal to negative cert 11. And so your final answer will be negative 2 plus cert 11 and x equal to negative 2 minus cert 11. This will be your final answers. Now I know this might look a little confusing at first, but if you do it step by step in the right manner, you can easily get your answer. Okay, so here's the two roots. Okay, so maybe this is still confusing. Let's just jump into another simple question here we have. Okay, so let's do it step by step again. I'm going to use a blue pen this time. Alright, so let's check for the first thing. Okay, we have equation ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. And we have to make sure that a is equal to 1. Well, if you see here, in our case, our a here is a negative 3. And we cannot continue doing completing a square when there's a negative 3 in front there. So how do we get rid of it? Well, we can simply divide the whole equation by negative 3. Okay, so let me rewrite this. Okay, plus 1. Okay, so let me just rewrite this. Negative 3x squared plus 6x minus 1 is equal to 0. And we're going to divide this whole part, divided by negative 3. And divide this part by negative 3. And we will end up getting x squared. So 6 divided by negative 3 gives us negative 2. And negative 1 divided by negative 3 gives us 103. Great. Now our a is finally 1. Okay, there's no negative, no nothing. Okay, so now we can continue. Okay, by just implementing that little formula. X squared, minus 2x plus, what is our b right now? Our b is negative 2. So we're at negative 2 over 2 squared minus negative 2 over 2 squared plus 103 is equal to 0. And just like before, draw the bracket, write the x, and over here you can see, so we know the next thing here would be to divide the b with 2. and our b is equal to -2, and if we divide it by 2 we get -1. So in this case we cannot write a plus, but it's a -1 squared. That's it. And now we can just ignore this part and calculate for this part. So when you put in your calculator -2 over 2 squared plus 1 over 3, you get -2 over 3 is equal to 0. And now we are finally done, and now we can solve for x. So bring the 2 over 3 to the other side. We're going to square root it, and remember, don't forget to add the plus minus sign. And since we can get two cases where it's equal to 2 over 3 or -2 over 3, we can write x 1 plus surd 2 over 3, or x is equal to 1 minus surd 2 over 3. Now that's simple and easy to do. Alright, so that's all for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.